steaming hot. Get ready. Rushing in.
Matt, let's give this another shot. Ooh, that's loud.
Can you hear it? Okay, you can hear us. Yes, he can hear us.
We still can't hear
We still can't hear him. Yeah, we can read your lips.
Matt, can you give us a test quick? Oh, still not working. One more try? All right, give us 1 second. We'll get you back.
It's 5:33, and I call this workshop of the Victoria City Council to order. Our workshops are informal, so we'll dive right into our agenda. There is one item on our agenda this evening, which is to conduct interviews for our Planning Commission. We have one individual joining us remotely. Matt, welcome. So he's going to keep himself muted. We're working on a little technical issue with Matt and the Zoom connection. So as in years past, we've waived interviews for incumbents through their term, and we're familiar with their level of participation and attendance, but we do have one incumbent in the audience with us this evening, so I want to make sure we welcome Ben Sikora this evening, who's with us. And all applications were routed to the council in advance of the workshop this evening, so we've all had a chance to take a look at your applications. And before we move on to interviews, any questions or points of discussion from my council colleagues this evening? All right, moving on. So at this time, all the applicants are seated in front of us at the tables in the front. Thank you first to all of you for making time to join us this evening and for making application to our commissions. They're a very important part of our process here in the city of Victoria, and we value the work that you guys do on the commission. We're going to kick off this evening by giving you, each of you, 2 minutes to introduce yourselves and share a brief overview of why you'd like to get involved in the Planning Commission. I'm going to ask our city clerk to use a timer this evening, so when you hear the time, please wrap up your thoughts. You'll have 2 minutes for each of those. After that, the council will ask some questions, and you'll each have a chance to answer each question, and we'll rotate who answers first. Okay, with that, let's begin with introductions and overviews. Joseph Otterstetter. Is that right?
It is.
Do you go by Joseph or Joe?
I go by
Joe, please, why don't you kick us off this evening?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thanks for the opportunity, Council and Mayor. If I can just take a brief detour, the technical issues at the start of the meeting reminded me how much I hated Zoom meetings at the end of my career, so thank you for that. My background, as you may have read in the bio, I am a licensed lawyer in Minnesota. I graduated in 1985 from the University of Minnesota Law School, practiced commercial litigation for 5 years, not much real estate, but some. I did leaky roof, wet basement cases for Merrill Lynch Realty. And after that, I went to 3M and practiced transactional and corporate law for 33 years before I retired about 2 years ago. That's when my wife and I moved to Victoria, and we have a small townhouse within literally a walk from council chambers, and just love it. It's a really special place. It's growing very rapidly, and we care about it. And my interest in this role is simply to give back. I've been doing pro bono work for 40 years. In fact, I still do pro bono work, grandparents' rights cases, military veteran cases. I'm interested, though, in putting back a bit in an area I care about. We love this area, and so really that's my only motive.
Perfect, thank you. Nicholas Riskamp?
Rice Camp.
Rice Camp. And Nicholas or Nick?
Nick is fine.
Okay, perfect. You're up.
All right, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and learn a little bit more about the process. And really the reason why I submitted an application is I have a young family. We moved here to Lake Town neighborhood in Victoria in 2020. I have 2 young daughters, and we absolutely love it. We moved here from Minneapolis, and that was a great neighborhood, but this is just a totally different sense of community. I think one of the things that we immediately recognize is that this is a place that we want to be for a long, long time. And so I was just browsing the city website one day and was like, you know, what are the different opportunities to get involved just as a citizen? And then I came across the Planning Commission, and I thought, hey, that would be a great thing to volunteer for, get a little bit more active into a community that, you know, we want to be a part of for a long time. And so that's why I'm here.
Great, thank you so
Thank you.
much. Aaron Croth.
Nice, nailed it.
Oh, perfect. First time.
Yeah.
All right, go
Hi,
ahead.
everyone. I'm Aaron. Excited to be here. So my history is in facility planning management. So I used to manage facilities and put together master plans and execute them. Also in my career, I was very involved in committees and working on workshops. Really enjoyed that kind of atmosphere. And so when I was thinking about what did I want to do in my volunteerism, once we moved here about 1.5 years ago with my wife and 3 kids. We had 2 kids at the time. Our third one came about 1 year ago. This really talked to me, like getting involved in the planning of the city that we're going to be living in for many years. I do plan on retiring one day and hopefully moving south where it's a little warmer, but we'll see. Wherever the kids go, maybe we'll stay here if they stay here. But knowing we're here for the long haul is something that I'm very excited to be able to be a part of. Thinking through the growth of this city, how it can give back to the rest of the families that are here, especially those of us that are young kids. It's really exciting to be able to be a part of that.
Very good, thank you so much. Jason Otto, that's pretty
ma'am.
straightforward, not hard for me to pronounce.
Pretty easy.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Good evening. 6 months ago, my fiance and I moved from South Minneapolis to Victoria. We looked at several different cities, but what really attracted us to Victoria is the small town charm and community. We really were looking for a place to set down roots and, start a life together, and couldn't think of any better place than Victoria. And the reason why I want to get involved on the planning committee is because I want to get involved in the community in a meaningful way. We're in the Hunters Brook development, lots of young families like ourselves in the community that I just want to bring a younger person's perspective to the planning commission.
Very good, thank you so much. We welcome all perspectives, so we appreciate that very much. All right, Matt, we're back to you. Let's see if we can hear you.
Yeah, how about now? Can you hear me?
Perfect. We can hear you loud and clear. Thank you so much
Fantastic.
for your patience. Welcome, Matt. We are learning a little bit about you. Give us 2 minutes about yourself and why you want to be a member of the Planning Commission.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thanks for having me remote. I had a last minute work thing to get down to Jacksonville. So I'm a field clinical engineer, part of my day job. So that's what brought me down here to support a oncology procedure with some physicians here at Mayo Clinic. My wife and I moved to Victoria back in 2020, 4 years ago now. And so we have 2 young boys, echoing, a lot of the other candidates here. It's the same kind of motive is that I want to be able to give back in such a way. And I think the planning committee sounded like an option that would kind of suit my values and the values of the community, based on kind of how I do my day-to-days interactions with physicians and hospitals and management and planning and research. So I think the 2040 plan is really intriguing as I've skimmed through that a few times, and would be also intrigued to begin to or kind of help finalize the next iteration of that plan.
Very
So
good.
thanks for the opportunity.
Very good, thank you so much. All right, now we'll move on to the Q&A part of our interviews, and I'm going to ask my council colleagues to ask questions of each of you, and we'll let everybody start at one point in time. So, Councilmember Reif, can I ask you to start with the first question, please?
Sure. Thanks again for being here, everyone. How about, let's start with your understanding of the Planning Commission working with City Council, and how the interaction should take place. And let's start with Joe.
Sure. It's very much a support role, as I understand it, and it should be a support role because we're not the elected representatives. Our job is to do the work to make your jobs not only easier, but more effective. To do the homework, to evaluate options, to bring our respective areas of expertise to bear, and to present them to council and members of the community in a way that is not only respectful, but that adds perspective and context to the decisions within our scope.
Excellent, thank you. We'll just go.
Sure.
down the
Yeah,
line if we can.
Joe said it pretty well, but I do view it as just kind of an advisory type role where we can have that input, give it to the council, and help support, any decisions that might need to be made.
Yeah, Aaron, so as I read it and understand it, it's reviewing requests, understanding the zoning and the requests that might be coming in, any changes that might need to be made, and kind of the broader picture of considering like how it might impact the community later down. And then as these guys said, making the recommendation upwards, understanding that we're not the authority that gets to say yes or no. That's what we're here for as a commission.
Similar to what everyone else said, I believe that the Planning Commission is an advisory body. And the two main objectives of the committee members is number one, to do your research and form an educated opinion to bring to the council. And number two is to attend all meetings.
Excellent, thanks, Jason. Matt?
Yep, and I think everyone hit it pretty spot on there. So I'm excited to hear what else we missed. But I think, yeah, from a from a plan commission role, doing the research, advising the committee upon what we have found and the data that we have come to conclude, and then you guys take it from there.
Very good, thank you so much. This next one, Councilmember Gunderson, why don't you go ahead and ask a question, and we will start with Nick.
I'm gonna skip the first half of the question I got. I think you answered that in your opening remarks. So I just want to get right to what specific aspects of planning or community development motivated you to pursue this role? I guess, Matt, let's start with you and work the other way.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks. My wife and I were really excited to move to Victoria because of the the parks and the water access. So to live by the kind of the motto of our city, but also to embrace the growth of residential neighborhoods, and to understand that we have to also support those neighborhoods from a commerce perspective. And so I'm interested kind of from that, more so kind of from that standpoint, while maintaining the recreation and the lakes.
So I'll jump in here. So similar to that perspective, I think it's, really about looking forward and taking the things that we love about Victoria right now and trying to find ways to advise and help expand the city, but also kind of preserve the wonderful things that we like about the small town feel, the lakes, the parks, the access to, so many outdoor activities and all of that as well.
So I think for me, when we moved here, I got a little more in the weeds and then the big picture, which maybe I shouldn't have. But we moved in one of the additions of Laketown, and so it was interesting to think about there's additions to each of these, and each of them have a different path that could come to fruition when they're planning this, right? And so we think about Red Fox going all the way through to Marshall Lake, and I was really intrigued by well, it may end up here or here or here, and figuring out the different solutions, what's going to be the best for the city. So that's one small example, but then even paying attention to some of the downtown decisions that have been going on over the last year or two for, what gets built? Is it parking? Is it residential? Is it commercial? So kind of getting into the minutia of how are those decisions going to play out long-term to help impact our city and keep it, like we've talked about, this small town, but really vibrant and thriving for the long term. So those were the things that got me excited and interested to look.
I struck an interest in this planning commission during our building process in the Huntersbrook community, with the permitting, the zoning, the construction, working with the developer on building a fence, and those are some of the things that really struck an interest for me in getting involved in the planning aspect of the community. And obviously, and one thing that sets Victoria apart versus other communities is we're growing. There's a growth aspect, and like I said, we're looking to set up roots somewhere and think of no better place to do that than
Joe?
I agree that not only is growing now, but will continue to grow for the foreseeable future. And why wouldn't it? I mean, look around us. It's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, the natural resources are absolutely striking. The roads are going to get more accessible in the next few years. It's a great place to raise a family. My only interest, and specific interest, is that we grow in to use the words of the Planning Commission and expectations, in a way that aligns with community values, zoning regulations, and long-term goals. I think it's really a sad situation when a community grows without planning, because it just goes every which way, and you don't have that cohesive, thoughtful structure that you would want. Victoria lacks some things right now. We lack a grocery store, for example. If I can bring in a Trader Joe's, I would love that.
So would we, if you can figure that out, please.
But, you know, and parking is a continual issue, right? Because people love to visit our city. I was in Excelsior last week and noticed that they put in on-street parking, which I thought was really sad, because you have to pay for it. And hopefully we can avoid going down that road, because I think that discourages people to come to the businesses in Victoria, which I think is really important. So I'll stop there. I have a lot of specific interests and opinions.
Very good, thank you. All right, I'm gonna ask the next question here. Oftentimes, as a planning commissioner, you don't agree with your colleagues on a regular basis on issues that are important to our development. Tell us a little bit about how you might resolve an issue within the planning commission where you don't agree. And I'm gonna start here with Aaron, please.
So I think I've got a lot of experience in this role, being a trusted advisor in my current role. So I manage a team of customer success managers who are expected to go help their customers be successful in the most simple way, but basically we're consultants. And there's a lot of times where we'll have multiple avenues that we can take with someone, and whether it's internally or with a customer, it's not always going to be your desired path. Sometimes you have to do what's best for the person that you're working towards, so in this case, the city. So I think for myself, being able to remove my own I guess, desires from the situation and take a step back and think through the bigger picture is how I would work towards resolving that, making sure that I'm listening and understanding with both ears and the one mouth that I have to understand what their opinion is, and that we fully vetted it through the whole cycle and just talk through it and make sure that we move in the right direction for the city.
Very good, thank you. Jason?
I'm a commodity trader, and I work on a team with 3 or 4 individuals every single day, and we deal with ambiguous situations minute by minute, and we always try to challenge each other's opinions respectfully. And once a decision has been made, we build consensus and move on.
Very good, thank you. Matt?
Yeah, I like to approach, issues and problems with curiosity, as to not just jump to a conclusion. So taking a kind of selfless, curious approach to problem solving within a group think would be the way that I would approach those, any set issue that would come up.
Very good, thank you. Joe?
I'd be more concerned if we didn't have disagreements along the way, because that would mean that people aren't speaking up and that there isn't sufficient trust in the organization to raise those disagreements. I led a team of 70 lawyers in 37 countries, and trust me, there were lots and lots of disagreements, and the most helpful phrase I ever learned was, help me understand. If you ask that question, it's not threatening. People will put their view on the table, and we try to find some middle ground. It's not always possible. If it's not, then we need to just acknowledge that it's not possible and move on from there. But more often than not, people want to come to an agreement. I mean, everybody in this room cares about this community a great deal. That's why we're here, right? So I take it as a given that we all want to reach common ground that's good for the organization, the City of Victoria.
Very good, thank you. Nick?
Yeah, I would say that, in my current role, I work in the medical field, and I work with folks from up and down the hospital system. So from the C-suite all the way to, the front desk people at certain clinics. And none of those people really, at the end of the day, have the same, objectives in mind for their day. But what I have to do is bring them together in some way. And that doesn't always work. You try as best as you can to reach those consensuses. But at the end of the day, it was echoed, I'll echo it again, the sentiment that we're all trying to, do things that are right for the city in the best way. And so if there was a disagreement, I would try to remove any biases that I had, and really listen to the consensus and be open to learning something new from, my peers on the commission.
Very good, thank you. I think we got through everybody there. Councilmember Roberts, you're up.
So from time to time, right, the council might have to make decisions that aren't always popular in the community, even though it may be in the best interest of the community. So are you all willing to take the responsibility of making decisions that are in the best interest of the public, even though they
Yes, absolutely I am. Sometimes. the
Absolutely.
right-
Oops.
Sorry.
Sit tight, Matt.
And that's because sometimes the right decision is not always a popular one.
Great. Okay, go ahead, Matt.
I only heard part of the question, I think, and
I can repeat
the
it.
answer is yes, absolutely. I would, make decisions in the best interest of Victoria. Was there any other part to the question?
It was basically, yes, are you willing to, if, whether something's controversial, are you willing to make the decision what's in the best interest of the public, even if it's controversial?
Absolutely.
So this is an advisory planning commission. It is not the decision-making commission. That is your role. And I understand that fully. I may disagree with it, but at the end of the day, I really like what Colin Powell said, air it out in the room, but at the end of the day, we're all on the same page, right? You can have your disagreements, but have them in the room at the table, because that's where we can make decisions. So, yeah, short answer.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely, I would go along with that. I think to add to it, though, I would make sure, kind of like what Joe said, making sure that we've discussed it fully and understand it, and that amongst the group, we're aligned. Again, sometimes they're unpopular. I understand that. I have to make those decisions as a manager sometimes too, and it's tough. But putting on the game face once we leave the room, understanding that we've come to a conclusion, and that's that.
All right, very good. Councilmember Evansky.
I think we've gotten through this slate of them. I actually don't really have any questions. We've got some good information.
Yeah.
I think this represents what we've seen time and time again, that there's a great body of people that want to help this nice community that we have. For full disclosure, I've sat in these various seats before. So I know the role, and so the answers that you guys have given, I can take them in and absorb them and judge each of you according to your merit. So thank you, gentlemen.
Good. I've got one final question. So sometimes the commission hears issues that are controversial and have a public comment component to them, and it can draw a large audience. And so how do you feel about how you can work in a situation where you have some folks in the audience that might not agree with the direction we're going? So curious to hear kind of about your skills around kind of managing that. And let's see, Jason, we haven't started with you yet. So oh, I'm sorry. Nick,
Sure.
are we overlooking you completely? Let's start with you.
All right. Yeah, so I think, one of the things that I do day to day is speak in front of a lot of different folks. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of the people that I talk to don't necessarily have the same interests in mind. They have competing interests. So I'm used to some disagreement with my audience, with my audience kind of not all being on the same page at the same time. And basically my approach is always just to bring it back down to as level of a place as I can, right? Like get back to base level. If things start getting a little, excited in the audience, we try to figure out, how do we get it back? How do we bring it back? And so a lot of times that will just, can be as simple as demeanor and presentation style, and just, kind of not rising to that level of energy that's coming, but just trying to center things. And so that's served me well for the most part, and I think that's just a natural style that I have, and so that's what I would employ.
Very good. Thanks, Nick. Aaron.
Yeah, I think for myself, I'm very comfortable speaking in front of large groups whenever necessary. I've managed teams anywhere from 3 people all the way up to 90, so having commanded rooms that size. I also have a background in teaching and learning, so I've done a lot of that. But it's specifically when it comes to confrontation, again, in that manager role, sometimes you have to deliver some tough news or an unpopular stance on a direction we're going to go. And so It's not fun, but it is something I've done quite a bit of and definitely comfortable being able to do it here in the city.
Very good. Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah.
Jason?
As I said before, I work in commodity trading, which inherently is a cutthroat industry. I certainly have no problem dealing with conflict. I deal with it every single day. And, you know, when I reach those sort of situations, I always think back to an awesome book that I read on human psychology, How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's really helped me in navigating uncomfortable, confrontational situations.
Very good. Thank you. Matt, back to you.
Yeah. I think there was, you know, an issue in the audience. You know, I think one of my strengths is listening and empathy. So, you know, following those two strengths of mine, you know, that's usually how I can commandeer, you know, some difficult conversations. And working in the medical field with physicians, lately they haven't been too difficult of conversations, but they've happened and they come up from time to time. So that's essentially how I would tackle, you know, the one-off negative issues.
Very good. Thanks, Matt. Joe?
In 40 years of practicing law, I've learned that nothing good happens once temperatures flare. And so my approach would be to try to keep a civil tone, treat people with respect, and stick to the facts, and not let things boil over, because once that happens, literally nothing productive can happen. I'd rather recess than carry on in a hostile meeting, because people's feelings will get hurt and it will just dig the hole deeper. So that's my approach.
Very good. Thank you so much. Yeah, please.
So we kind of talked about if there might be disagreement on the commission, obviously, the council sets kind of, you know, the vision of where we want to go, and obviously that trickles down to the other commissions and committees. So I get, right, like, and can change, right? So there's three of us that potentially could be up this fall, or are up this fall, right? So there could be a completely new looking council with different visions and values come January of next year. So I'm just curious how, you know, that change and potential changing of visions and how you might react if maybe, you know, your ideas or your visions or thoughts of how the city should go completely differ from what the council is doing. And then we can start with Joe again.
You know, it's hard, Chad, to say in the abstract without knowing what we're getting, but you know, in this community, I have to believe that anybody that would run in opposition to you for a council position would care deeply about the community. They may have different perspectives and different agendas for community development. You know, none of us has a monopoly on good ideas. And so this, again, is an advisory role. So we work with the elected representatives, and that's our job. It's not to debate the election. Our job is to work with the council members that have been selected by our community.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would just kind of keep in mind where, you know, the reason why I'm here today, the reason why I applied in the first place is just, you know, keeping the city, you know, and the future of the city forefront and doing the best I can to, you know, help with that vision and give my best input on, you know, the way I think that we can preserve some of the small nature and like the wonderful culture of Victoria, but also, you know, look to the future. So I would just try to keep that in mind and advise that way.
I think for myself, recently, in the last couple of years, I've been through 2 different presidents at our company. And so it's interesting that you talk about this now because I'm experiencing it. And certainly there's some shift and change, like these guys said, from the top, there can be a slight change in which way the boat goes. But ultimately, I think it's also our responsibility as the commission to remind everyone, like, hey, these are the things we've been moving towards to keep some consistency and help guide those new council members should they be elected in a different path. Again, in an advisory role to make sure that they understand the history and what has been, decisions that have been made. But I also agree with what these guys said, that at the end of the day, I think Victoria is very strong. We've got some great people here in the public that should there be a change, I wouldn't expect it to be so drastic that we'd have a real butting of heads. But certainly we'll always disagree on something, right?
I always assume good intentions from everyone that I meet, and certainly someone that is elected to the city council is someone of principle and good intentions who want the best for the community. But at the end of the day, the objective of the planning commission is to do research and provide an educated opinion, no matter who is sitting on the city council.
Matt?
Yeah, I think it's, let me back up for a second. I think just hearing the other candidates, there's an alignment here and shared values of Victoria and kind of what we see it as now and how we kind of want it to grow. So if there was someone in the council or some people in the council that were new and had some different ideas, I think it would make a lot of sense to challenge those ideas in such a way and understand, where that comes from and if that aligns then with our long-term plan.
Thank you.
Very good. Council, other questions? Yeah, Councilmember Gunderson, please.
Mayor, you're gonna have to help me because I screwed up the last time, so let's get me back on track. When I sat back here as a planning commissioner, oftentimes a project, we'd get all the information on paper, and it would come to us, and we'd have to get new information. There'd be something about a project that wouldn't either sit right, or I'd want more information on. Oftentimes I'd go out and get my own information, go to the site, talk to the property owner, do a little bit outside of the building. How comfortable are you just walking up to a property owner that might be applying for something that if you don't have the information? Because as a planning commissioner, we're gonna ask you to have all the information you can get, and if you're not getting it, we need people that are gonna be willing to go get it. To give you the best information you have. So we want people that can have those conversations with people looking to do things, whether it's a developer or a property owner or a resident. So I just want to make sure that you're comfortable doing that and being in the community and people knowing who you are.
All right, let's start with Matt.
Yes, yeah, I'm comfortable. I think I'm a pretty approachable person too, so I don't think anyone would get too riled up if I came and knocked on their door. So, and I'm perfectly comfortable too.
Very good. Joe, let's go to you next.
Yeah, I think you want the best information, and if you don't have it in the meeting, I think it's the duty of the planning commission, if it's a commission meeting, to stop the meeting and get the information. I'd rather delay than make a bad decision because we don't have the full information, and if that means going out to a site, sure, of course.
Yeah, I'm very comfortable with that. I think the first 5-6 years of my sales career was cold calling on people that I'd never seen or met before and, having to introduce myself and start a dialogue and ask questions. So it's something that is, at this point, pretty easy for me.
As similar, I manage a book of accounts of about 400 customers for my company. So cold calling is something I do every day of, reaching out to somebody who's either upset I've never met with before, or I need to go ask some questions because I need to gather more information. So very comfortable striking up that conversation in a charismatic way. I would, of course, through training, want to make sure that I did it within the guidelines that are provided by the city and the council.
Don't mean to plagiarize off these guys, but cold calling is also a large part of my role too, and do it on a weekly basis. And I certainly enjoy meeting new people and building consensus.
Great. All right, council, anything else? All right, at this time, I would love to invite Ben Sikora up to the podium. So Ben, you don't have to answer any questions. You've served admirably on our planning commission for 3 years, correct? Is that-
Not 3 years. I took a one-year term from
Okay.
From a vacancy that came about.
All right, so you have served admirably for 1 year.
Thank you.
And are reapplying for a 3-year term.
Yes.
And the staff has recommended that we reappoint you, so we aren't putting you through we're delighted to take that recommendation. We're not going to put you through the interview process, but would like to have any comments from you that you'd like to make or address any of the questions that we've asked the other candidates this evening. Please feel free.
Thanks, and I'm delighted to serve. I appreciate that. I think it's a good relationship between the Planning Commission and the council. I think there is a lot of questions and feedback that go back and forth between the two, and they run quite efficiently. So our city organization does a good job of having the right people in the right places, including Brian and Dana, thank you for that. And our city engineer, who's not here, but she does a great job as well, and Brian's help with the commission. So happy to serve, happy to be here. Glad I'm here anyway. And so thank you guys.
Very good. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice shout out to the staff. Yeah, they support our commissions and our committees in a big way, and are a great resource for you as members of our commissions and committees, and can help you find those answers that you're looking for. So, should you be appointed, don't hesitate to reach out to them. We're blessed with some of the greatest staff members here, so it's great news. All right. One last chance with the council, if they have anything else that they want to ask.
I don't think I have anything to ask, but I just want to say that we have some great candidates, and I think you guys are well-schooled in math. You know that there's so many positions open, and there's more of you that they're available. We're going to have to make tough decisions on who we should appoint, but what I want to pass along to those who don't get picked, please, stay engaged. Look for other opportunities. I have had a role volunteering with the city since 2009, and it's been rewarding every single year. And we had a finance committee, I've been on that, planning commission, now city council. So it's a great city. You're all here because you believe in the values that we have. As the mayor said, we've got fantastic staff. Just don't give up hope. Like if you didn't get picked, stay engaged, because it'll be rewarding. Just you have to find your place, that's all.
Very well said, Councilmember Umansky, well said. All right. With that, we're going to make the official appointments for Planning Commission, as well as our Park and Rec Committee and Senior Advisory Committees at our regular meeting following our workshop here this evening. So council will have some discussion about who we feel like we want to appoint. You are all welcome to stay and kind of hear that discussion. But otherwise, you guys are great. Thank you again for joining us. Matt, thank you for making arrangements to join us remotely. We appreciate that. And so, like
Thanks for the opportunity.
Certainly. And so please feel free to hang around and listen to the discussion if you wish. All right. If there's no further discussion or any other information the council needs to help make these decisions about appointments before we adjourn this evening. All right, and we're gonna have our conversation at the council meeting, is that right, Dana? Rather than okay. So we'll be having that conversation. So at this point, we're going to adjourn the council workshop, so I will entertain a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
You have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We stand adjourned. We will reconvene at